Hey everybody, it's Ben. I'm awake. So I was mainly asleep for the match. So I actually haven't seen all the games and so forth. Mainly and so forth. I actually slept really well last night, which is unusual for me. Also alive, I think, and so forth. So the playoffs were today for the World Championship. After 14 games, the score was 7-7, and the format for today was to play four rapid games, 25-minute with 10-second increment, I think. And then if that's tied, then they play blitz chess. So let's have a look at the playoffs. Hooray! Go the playoffs. So Ding was white in the first game, and in keeping with the match, he played a move that hasn't been played in the match in this position. On move three, he played c3, and they transposed into a reverse Slav defense. So if it was black's move here, it would just be a Slav, but it's white's move because white's playing the Slav. So he takes, and he has some chances to hold on to the pawn because he gets an extra move. So okay, so e6 attacks the pawn, and he can play either b4 or bishop e3. Played bishop e3, defending the pawn. And black just decided to develop his pieces in castle. With the bishop on e3, you can't play e3 because it's illegal. So if you want to get your bishop out, you have to play g3. Okay, knight c6, bishop g2, castles. Sort of a new kind of position. White played b4. So white's up a pawn, and his bishop on e3 is sort of strangely placed. Knight g4, wants to take the bishop and ruin the pawn structure. Bishop to d4. So in this position, you could play e5, attacking the bishop, and the bishop is sort of trapped. So white would play h3, and then takes, and then takes. And then, like, if I was black in this position, this is the engine move to take, but I would probably take this. That seems more logical. And then b5 is the engine move. And eventually the engine says that white's better. White's up a pawn. This pawn's hanging. I don't have to castle anymore because my rook has an open h-file. So my king could just stay on f1. And black has to figure out how to win his pawns back and stop this attack on the h-file. So the engine actually likes white here after e5. So Jan just played queen c7. And what his plan is when he does play e5 eventually, and white plays h3, he's not going to do this trade. He can just play knight f6 because his queen defends the e5 pawn, and so forth. Okay, so white castled, and then e5, and then h3, and now black could just play knight f6, and then bishop e3, bishop e6, and black has good compensation for a pawn because black has this really nice center, and white's position looks sort of strange. But Jan played more tactically. He did take the bishop, takes the knight. Now black doesn't have to worry about this open h-file anymore. Takes on c3. Now this pawn is attacked. He played knight takes c3, knight takes b4. a3 attacks the knight, and when the knight moves away, this isn't defended. So he played bishop f6, rook c1, and he took the knight because he doesn't want white to play knight takes d5. And then knight c6, queen takes d5, bishop takes g4, and we have a position with equal material where the engine says white's slightly better because b pawn's pretty weak. It's on a half open file. And white has a nice fianchetto bishop. Knight g5. That move is okay. The tactical justification is if you play bishop takes e2, which would be a blunder. I play queen e4, threatening mate, and threatening your bishop. So you can't do that. Okay, so he played h6, knight e4, and now you can play bishop takes e2. Nothing wrong with it. And the reason white played knight g5 is white wants the knight to go to d6. Because, sort of like when Ding had his knight on d3 in one of the slow games, where he sacrificed the exchange, and so forth. Okay, so black played rook a e8, which is fine. e3, he saved his pawn. Rook e5, attacking the queen. Queen moved to safety. And he played rook d8, which gets a question mark. I mean, white wants to play knight d6, so forcing knight d6 is sort of odd. But it's okay. The tactical move the engine wants to play is bishop h3, Shirov style. And the idea is if you take it, then I take the knight on e4, which is fine for white. This is a weird move to play, so I'm not surprised he didn't play it. Knight d6, now white's better. Rook h5, black tries to get some kind of attack against the white king. And now white made a mistake. The engine wants to play queen c2, unpinning the knight. And you have to remember this is a rapid game, so we're not expecting absolute perfect play, just reasonable. Played rook b1, but now his knight's pinned, so he's not really threatening the b7 pawn. So knight e5. Black wants to play knight f3 check, which wins. So white played e4. His rook is defending f3. That's the best move. Then b6. He's trying to punish this pin. And this got super tactical now, and it was really cool. He took, and now the tactical justification, if you take the knight, oh, give me the knight. Then white has this passed pawn, and he can either play b7 or b takes a7, and they both win, because these pieces aren't stopping that passed pawn. And if you play rook takes knight, that's even worse. I take, and then takes, and then in this position, actually this isn't worse. Now, if you queen, black takes it, but it wants white to play f4, and it says white's winning here. Because white's going to, win a piece this way, win a piece this way. Okay, so the game became rather brilliant in this position. Black played the move a takes b6, double exclamation mark. And the idea is this rook is overworked. It's stopping this, and it's attacking the queen. If you take the quote-unquote free queen, I play knight f3 check. Now you have two legal moves. King f1, knight takes queen check, forks the king and rook. So black would be winning. And if you take the knight, then even though white is ahead of queen, you can't stop rook h1 mate. So, amazing. So that was brilliant. And then white played the brilliant knight b5, which attacks the queen, and this queen is attacked, and so forth. So they traded queens. Takes. And materials equal. Bishop h3, rook h3, king g2, rook h5. He pins the knight. Rook goes to d1. Rook goes to h1. Now black's threatening rook 5 to h2 checkmate. So he checked and took the knight. And in this position, if you play rook 5 to h2 and white plays king f3, white's just up a piece. And if you take this, and I take this, and you take this, this is just a drawn endgame. And so they repeated moves. He played rook check. If the king moves to f1 or f3, I take the rook and black is up in exchange. So he stays on the rook. And again, if you take, I take, and it's a draw. And they repeated moves. And they agreed to a draw here. So really exciting game, really well played. I mean, that was a really fantastic game, especially since it's 25-minute with a 10-second increment, and so forth. So that was a really good first rapid game between Ding and Jan. Okay, let's have a look at game 2, if I can figure out how. Ding, 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 ding. Let's see. Round 16. Okay. So here, Ding is black against Jan. This was the second rapid game, which I haven't looked at. This game lasted a little longer. They played a Ruy Lopez again, as per usual. We've seen this several times. Okay, and earlier in the match, we saw A3 and we saw C3. So now he's playing A4, which I think is a more common move. Bishop to D7. And after A4, White's threatening to take on B5 because there's a pin here. So black plays bishop D7 so that the queen is defending the rook in case of a trade here on B5. Develops his bishop. Okay, so pretty slow maneuvering game. Takes on A4. His bishop is defending it. He can play rook B8 and attack this pawn. Black's up a pawn. Bishop D2, attacking the knight. Knight retreats. Knight C3, attacking the weak pawn. Rook B8, attacking this pawn. He takes and defends. Knight to D4 with a discovered attack on the knight. If the knight moves, this pawn is hanging. So he defends his knight and he attacks this pawn. So good play. C6. So this position, the engine prefers white, and actually what white did is the engine line. So I'm wondering what happens on bishop takes A6, although it seems pretty dangerous. But, you know, sometimes you want to take a pawn. Yeah, the engine says white's a little bit better here too. So you can take that pawn. But he took on D4 and played bishop F4. And the engine likes white here a lot because black's pawns are sort of strange. White's pawns are just solid and normal. Bishop E6, trading pieces, always trade. A5, saving his pawn. And, you know, white's just better here. White has more space and nicer pawn structure. Knight to D5. And he took on D6, which is a minor mistake. He should just play bishop G3 and save his bishop. These trades just help black. Because we're getting close to equality now that everything's getting traded. And the trade some more. Always trade. Everybody trade. Okay, material's equal, and this pawn is weak on A5. But so is the C4 pawn. Take this, take this. So rook C5, defending his pawn and attacking this one. D3, trade, always trade. Everybody trade. Now he's forking these two. More trading. Trade. And obviously this is a draw. More trading. Ruins his pawn structure, but pawn structure doesn't matter much. And you can't avoid trading rooks here. My rook just follows your rook. Rook B5, rook D5, rook B6, rook D6. You have to trade rooks. And the ruined pawn structure doesn't really matter here. 3 against 2 is a draw, so 3 against 3 is a pretty easy draw. And they just repeated and drew. That game was pretty good. The first game, they both played 97 point something. This game, they both played 98.2. So white was better that game, and black defended well and traded everything. So really good defense from black, especially considering it's a rapid game. So that was pretty good, I thought. Okay, game 3. Always look at game 3. Ding has white again. Okay. And Ding plays knight f3 on move 1, which I don't think he's done this match. G3, so we get some kind of ready. Not the most exciting variation. White plays for a small advantage. White's threatening checkmate. Bishop f6. Knight f4. I assume this is a theoretical line. So if you trade queens, I play knight takes e2 check, and I win a pawn. If you play queen takes knight, I play bishop takes bishop and win the rook in the corner. So you have to play pawn takes. Takes. And white has a lead in development, and black's bishop isn't very good, but black has the 2 bishops, and white has double pawns and an isolated pawn. So the engine says it's equal. Everything's always equal. Both sides have their pluses and minuses. Bishop back to f6. Always trade when you're trying to equalize, I guess. White gets a rook on the 7th, but opposite colored bishops. And he played bishop takes, because if you play rook takes, the bishop and pawn ending is just a draw. You can't win that endgame. So he tried to keep the rooks on. But trying is the first step to failure. Kept trying. And even though white's up a pawn, he can't get a passed pawn here because of the pawn structure. And he has doubled pawns and isolated pawns. Pawns are stuck on dark squares, so black can attack them. And this is really not really an advantage for white. I'd rather have white, but there's nothing white can do. And they go to the bishop ending, which is just a draw. And I mean, white can't do anything. His pawns are all on dark squares, so he's going to get him attacked. If his king starts walking over here, he's going to lose all of his pawns. So this game was a draw. 99.2 for white, 99.7 for black. So the first 3 rapid games were all drawn and very well played. Like no blunders from anybody. Nobody was winning. Very high level. For rapid chess, right after you've played 14 slow games and the game ended at like 9:30 last night, local time for them, and then to have to play again 4 rapid games, you don't expect the highest level, but that was the highest level. Nobody was winning, nobody blundered, and they're playing game after game after game of rapid chess, and very good games. Everything good. So really nice. Thanks, Jaws82. So really nice. And let's look at the 4th rapid game. Always look. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Always look at the wrong thing. I'll always repeat. Okay, so the last rapid game before they have a blitz playoff, assuming it's a draw, is Jan White against Ding. So Jan gets white, and if he wins, he's the world champion. And if Ding wins, he's the world champion. And if they draw, then they go to a 5-minute playoff. So another Ruy Lopez, again, and we've seen this several times. Okay, and we saw this in the previous game, that Jan was white. We saw bishop d7, same opening. h3, castles. This is a repetition of their second rapid game. Bishop e3, knight a5, bishop a2, take on a4. They already did this. This was played in game 2. This is the only time in the match they repeated an opening that they played before. So that's funny. Knight c3. Let's see. I think he played rook b8. No, actually, he didn't play knight c3. He played bishop d2 in game 2. And then after knight c6, he played knight c3. So knight c3, the first new move of the game from the match. Rook b8. And he played bishop b1, unleashing the latent potential of his rook. And the bishop looks strange on b1. So obviously, dings out of his preparation. Okay, so he played queen e8, defending his pawn again. b3. If you take on b3, I take your knight. So he played c5. Now the material's equal again. Black has nice control of d4. Bishop on b1 looks sort of silly. Pawn on a6 is weak. So, it's about equal. Lots of stuff going on. Knight c3, the engine doesn't like that move. That seems like a logical move. The knight seems pretty stupid on a4, then attacks a pawn. Okay, now the engine slightly prefers black. Obviously, this looks quite silly, the bishop on b1. Knight d2, the knight's coming to c4. The knight does come to c4, and black plays d5. And the engine doesn't like that move and says now white's better. d5 looks completely natural to me. The engine wants to play knight takes pawn, knight takes knight here. You can see these pawns potentially can get attacked, and white has a stable pawn structure. Bishop takes c4, otherwise his pawns are all hanging. Bishop d8. So black has a passed pawn. Black has isolated pawns. That's bad. White's bishop is really bad. So the engine says it's about equal. Because both sides have good and bad, and it balances out. Okay, bishop d2. White's going to play c3 and eventually get his bishop to some good square. And he does. Black plays on the king's side. He's got his bishop pointing this way. His queen and rook are over here. He's got a nice center. Again, it's about equal. Rook e1, rook d8, rook a2. And these moves are all reasonable. The engine slightly prefers black. Queen e2, queen d6. There's a tactic you guys can understand. g3. And this looks like black is better, although white does have two bishops, and these pawns are isolated. So black could overpress, obviously. Rook e8, queen f3. The rook is defending the bishop. So if you play e4, it's not pinned, the d pawn. That's why he played rook a2, to make sure when he played queen f3, his bishop would be defended. e4 was played anyway. Takes. Knight e5. Here comes the knight. Oh, give me the knight. Knight d3. Man, Ding likes to put his knight on d3 with black and knight on d6 with white. That's his secret. Takes. Threatening the c4 pawn. This pawn is pinned. Although you could take, because the bishop is defending, I guess. Seems risky. He did take. Seems risky. If you play queen b1, which looks like it wins a piece because it's a fork, I have rook e2. So it does not win a piece. So he took on c4. All these pawns are weak, so you would expect this to be a draw. The engine likes white because white's up a pawn. Now, the best move for white, I would not consider. What? The best move for white, he played the move rook a1, and you can see it gets a question mark. That's what I would play, rook a1. The best move is rook d2, undefending the c3 pawn. That seems a bit odd. And I guess you can't take this. I just don't know why. Queen d5 check, queen e6. Queen defends this. We're threatening rook coming in, attacking the queen. And this is better for white, it says, although that's not obvious to me, but that's what the engine says. Much better for white. So rook a1, that seems more logical, keeping the pawn defended and blocking this pawn, defending the first rank. Rook takes f5, material equality is established, positions equal. Black gets luft, defends his bishop, makes his king safe, and this should be a draw. Very good play. Looks like they're going to trade everything. He played queen e8, which is fine. Rook here. This looks dangerous for black because, you know, queen's defending the rook and the bishop. So he moves his rook to safety. Now in this position, it looks like you could play bishop d2 and you're pinning and so forth. But I have queen d4, threatening queen f2 check with a perpetual. And this is actually how the game could have ended. I guess king g1 loses to queen g3. So all those moves I made were silly. Yeah, king g1 was a blunder every time I did it. Let's go back and play better. Okay, I should play king h2 and not hang this with check. And this is the repetition I was talking about. Anyway, the game could have ended like that. That would have been a very reasonable end to the game. And Jan doesn't want to draw. Jan plays queen d7. And, you know, white's king is safer than black's king. This bishop is pinned. These pawns are isolated. But the position's equal. Now black plays an excellent move, which stops bishop here once and for all. Plays queen e2. And the idea is if you take the bishop, queen e1 check, wins for black. Queen here. And I guess if black wants to draw, black can play bishop d4 and get a drawn queen and rook ending. But bishop b4, always play for the win. Queen e4 check. And now always repeat. And in this position, in the live commentary, Hess and Fabi and Tanya were explaining that black's not going to play rook g6 and pin his own rook, and they're going to repeat. Always repeat. And instead, he played rook g6. Ding plays for the win. So both players had draws and played for the win. And, you know, now in this position, white should play h4 so that, you know, better watch out for h5 later. But he played queen f5, which is fine. And this undefends the pawn that can go to c4, but it does defend h5 in case white wants to play h4, h5. So very reasonable. c4 was played. And h4 is a mistake. And now actually black is winning. White's threatening h5. And I'm guessing Jan just missed this move. That's my guess. I'm guessing. Black played a move that's very strong. Queen d3. Now the pawn on c4 is not only trying to queen, but it's defending this diagonal for the queen to go to d3. Queen takes, pawn takes. That's a good ending for black. Black's up a pawn and has two passed pawns. So that's not good. I think he just missed queen d3. Okay, so queen f3. Now black is winning. Rook f6 is a mistake. He should play bishop d2. Then if the rook goes to d1, we can play c3. So he played here. We're still winning. c3. Black is winning now. Rook d1. Queen g6. Rook c6. Black's just up a pawn. It has two passed pawns. Rook d6 is a mistake, although black is still winning. Takes, takes. Queen check. Queen g6. Queen check. King h2 is good. We don't go to g2 and allow checks on the diagonal. King is safer on h2. Now if we play c2, then white will have a perpetual check again with queen here check. So now it's getting close to a draw. Played a4. Now it is a draw. Bishop d4 exclam, attacking the pawn. And now white has mating attack. a3. In this position, white has two ways to draw. The move h5 draws. And the reason you want to play h5 is if you move your queen to the 7th rank, attacking the g7 pawn, black's going to play queen g6. You have to realize the players don't have any time here. They're just blitzing. So, and another move that draws, because the engine says so, but nobody would ever play it, is bishop takes g7. And then the engine says white has perpetual check here. I mean, if you don't see the perpetual check, you don't do it, because then if you don't, you resign. So nobody could see whether this is a perp or not. You just guess. So, yeah. Okay, so he played queen c7. This is a big mistake because you're threatening mate, but black plays queen g6, defending the mate, and like, that's it. Now my pawns are queening. That was like a one-shot deal there, queen c7. So he played queen c4, c2. God damn, those pawns are getting good now. Bishop e3, bishop d6. King g2 is a mistake, it says. h5 is good, keeping the black king safe. It says it's a question mark, but the move wins, so it's not that bad. Okay, so now white went crazy because black's going to play, you know, bishop here and c1 and a2 and queen b1. I mean, black's going to get at least one queen. So white played for counterplay with g4. Now if you take with the queen, I could take this pawn with check. So he takes with the pawn, h5. If you take the pawn, I take this pawn with check. So he plays queen f5, keeping his pawn defended. Queen pinning the bishop. g3. Now if it's black's turn to move, black can queen. Bishop takes queen. Queen takes f2, checkmate. So he plays f4. a2. Now he's threatening a1. So white has to take it. Now the bishop's not pinned anymore. Bishop takes f4. And we crown a new world champion. Too bad, Magnus Carlsen. Ding is now the world champion. And white resigned. Because black's queening and checkmating and winning the bishop and so forth. So an amazing last game to decide the world champion. Both players had very little time at the end. That game, it says black played 90 and white played 85.1. That game was the lowest quality, but the most exciting of the rapid games. Both sides had the advantage at different points. And Ding ended up with the better nerves, and he played to win with rook g6. So congratulations to our new world champion, Ding. I heard he likes to take walks in the rain, and so forth. Great match. Exactly. That's right, the cherry point. Well said. Nobody can see what you said but me, but still well said. I'll have to allow that chat. I can find out where it is. Did somebody allow it already? I guess it was allowed already. And so forth. He won in 69, well, 68 moves. Close. Where does Ding rank among world champions? Ding's probably the greatest player who ever lived. This is the first time in the match that Ding was ahead. That's good enough. Yeah, that was a great championship. All hail our new world chess champion, Ding Liren. Hooray. Yeah, the players look tired at the end, and the press conference doesn't help. Go Ding. Yeah, so the time control for the playoffs was 25-minute with a 10-second increment. The first 3 games were almost all perfectly played, and this game was super exciting. Both sides having the advantage, both sides not wanting to draw at different points, and so forth. Yay, Magnus Withdrawson subscribed. Thanks, Magnus. He's withdrawing from being world champion. That's right. Magnus in the chat or something. Anyway, I'll see you guys tonight for Sub Sunday. Go Sub Sunday. And maybe Zing will come on the stream and, hang out with us. It's possible. Well, it's probably not possible, but, and so forth. Mainly and so forth. All right, I'll get you guys over to the chess stream because they're probably talking about something important. And then I'll see you guys tonight.